seconds away in Studio 5. See why 150 steps are a miracle for this two-time Olympic high jumper. And then,
what you gonna do when you need a little more grace?
Learn what Kiara Shear, Pharrell Williams, and
out of the ashes, we all will rise.
Micah Stampley have in common. And
I want him out. Gonna need 10% down.
Your first look at the second season of John Singleton's Snowfall, all in Studio 5, starting now. And welcome to Studio 5. It is time now to fire up the countdown clock and begin our look at the best headlines in the world of uplifting entertainment news. At number 5.
People say, I lost faith. I picture them giving up. It wasn't like that for me.
It's a Studio 5 first look at the film An Interview with God.
Hey, Gary.
What are you doing here?
I'm working on something. I'm doing an interview.
With who?
Paul Ash, with Arrow. I know who you are. I know all your work. I'm a fan. I cover religion for a secular paper, and the stuff I write usually ends up in the lifestyle section. Okay, today's June 1st. Please say your name and spell it. I'm God, G-O-D. I'm doing this interview, and it's getting kind of weird. If I send you a headshot, could you check it out?
You traveled 7,000 miles into a war zone. All war changes people.
How many times do you want me to apologize?
Look, things happen. And how many times do I have to live through it?
Sarah just left me.
This is about Afghanistan.
No, I think it might be a bigger problem, an older problem.
You are about out of time.
You're saying
Yes.
this interview, it's eating me up.
It's really an interview?
Yeah.
With God.
You're telling me to pray. Get hurt?
I'd like to talk to you about salvation, Paul.
An intriguing premise for a film hitting American theaters for 3 nights, beginning August 20th. At number 4.
A first for Denzel Washington. After nearly 4 decades in showbiz, Washington will be in a sequel, reprising his role of retired CIA agent Robert McCall in The Equalizer 2. When asked, why now?
Good story, great teammates. I really was keen and interested in the sort of the father-son story. I mean, that's what was new about it, the sort of the story between me and the young boy, or McCall and the young boy, and helping him navigate a bit through life without a father figure.
And Equalizer 2 opened at the top of the box office.
Got special talent.
Yes, you do. And it takes talent to make money. But it takes brains to keep it, Miles.
Yeah, well, I'm out here making my money, man.
Short money, Miles. That's short money.
The countdown continues throughout the rest of the show. In this week's Studio 5 sit-down, we're talking to Jamie Nieto. He's an Olympic jumper who was paralyzed by a freak injury, but right now, he is on an amazing journey. These are unforgettable images of Jamie Nieto competing and winning Olympic competitions.
Everything that we do starts with the mind, you know. And if you believe, then you can achieve in a sense, you know. If you think that you're not going to do something, you're probably not going to do it. But if you think that you can, you're more likely, more apt to actually do that. So, especially with my situation, especially with track and field, I didn't always believe that I could become an Olympian, you know. And it took time, and then I did start to believe. And when I did start to believe, things started to change in my life. I always had an idea that I had the talent to do it. And then when I finally did do it the first time, I was like, okay, it all came to pass. But then the second time when I went to the Olympics, I was 35 years old, and it was like, do you think you can compete against these guys who are 10, 15 years younger than you? I was like, I don't know. You haven't jumped so high in 8 years. You know, you haven't been on the top of your game in a little while. Do you think you can actually do this again? And I didn't totally believe, but I convinced myself that I could do it. And I did that by prayer. I did that by positive affirmations. I did that by surrounding myself with people who are like-minded, you know, and then I did start to believe within a year that, oh, I can do this, you know, and I did.
We caught up with Jamie on the set of the PureFlix soap opera Hilton Head Island, where he plays a chief surgeon. This is yet another milestone on his incredible road to recovery. The two-time Olympic high jumper injured himself in a freak accident and became paralyzed.
I was coaching and I was demonstrating, and I had some athletes that were Olympic hopefuls, and as I did the jump, my foot slipped and I went straight from my feet to my head, and the disc in my neck pressed back and bruised the spinal cord, and I was paralyzed from the chest down. Yeah, and it was a tough time. You know, it's still hard sometimes, but I'm getting through it, and you know, by the grace of God, I'm back up on my feet. You know, the doctor said that I would only have 30% mobility back, which is not walking. I don't know what 30% is. Maybe just feeding yourself. I don't know, but I knew with my faith, my determination, my will to keep wanting to be the best that I could be, I would get back on my feet, I would walk again, I'm gonna run again, because I have the fight of Olympian.
Family and friends saw that Olympic fight when Jamie proposed to his wife and vowed to walk down the aisle.
My wife said, oh, it's probably take you about 150 steps to get out of the church, and I was like, okay, so I started practicing on my walking, and at the time I was barely falling into 3 steps, you know, like we had a big box, and they would let me go, and then I'd try to take my 3 steps, and I was kind of trying to keep up with myself. Well, eventually, you know, I started gaining more balance and stability, and those steps got a little more solid, and even now, you know, I use crutches to kind of just stabilize me, but I can walk with like half steps, and I'm a lot more solid and stable, so yeah, it was a blessing to be able to do that, and I'm very happy that I was able to do that from me and my wife.
Jamie Nieto had the greatest performance of his career this weekend in a church. Jamie suffered a paralyzing spinal cord injury last year when he slipped while doing a backflip. During rehab, he focused on one single goal, learning to take 130 steps. And on Saturday, he reached it, walking his new bride, Siobhan, down the aisle after their wedding ceremony.
Through the most difficult times was the times I prayed the most. I mean, I pray all the time, but that's kind of what got me through the most difficult times. You know, when I didn't believe and I didn't know, and all these questions kept coming into my mind, I just prayed about it and asked God to heal my body and touch me with his healing hands and help me to get back on my feet. And so through most of the process, I would say 90% of the time I've been pretty upbeat, and you know, 10% of the time I'm upset or frustrated because I can't do what I used to be able to do, because I was so athletic, so mobile, I can do pretty much whatever I wanted to do. And now kind of regaining those movements and that mobility, that's the stuff that made me like, oh, it's kind of frustrating and irritating. But then, so I would take time and I would just let it out, and I would pray, and I would sit there and I would talk to God when I'm like frustrated, and then I let it go and I move on. So, you know, for 5 or 10 minutes, I might be sitting there praying out loud and asking God to help me, and then I'm okay, you know.
And to get more from Jamie, be sure to catch him on Season 2 of PureFlix's Hilton Head Island. Perhaps you know the song or the recording artist singing it, but do you know who wrote it?
Every single time I go to write a song, I can hear it in my head before I pen it or before I play it.
Music master Tedy P spills the secrets to his songwriting success when we come back. And welcome back to Studio 5. The countdown of the best headlines and uplifting entertainment news continues now. At number 3, he's back with his old show on a new network.
Look at that, look. It's a fox.
What is it?
Yeah, a fox.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. What is that?
A fox.
I know somebody's going to be happy you said that 3 times.
All new season of Last Man Standing, Fridays this fall on
Fox.
At number 2.
Yo, you knew you were going to be in the NBA? I'm like, nah. I didn't, really. I just love to play basketball.
Fresh off the court, following his latest NBA championship, Steph Curry graces the cover of Variety magazine with big news and big plans for Hollywood.
The All-Star guard recently signed a wide-ranging deal between his production company, Unanimous Media, and Sony Pictures Entertainment, part of which involves plans to bring several faith-adjacent films to theaters. Curry explained to Variety that the films won't be overly religious, saying, "It's not about me hitting people over the head with the Bible and telling them they have to believe a certain thing or think a certain way." One will be an animated biblical story, and another, called Church Hoppers, is a comedy in the same vein of Wedding Crashers.
We got untapped value above us.
Right.
When you think about endorsements you can do outside of the court.
It opens up so many doors and opportunities to turn your other passions into real life business, real life opportunities in that front.
And that leaves one more headline in this week's countdown. Right now, though, we want to turn a spotlight on a man who's usually in the background. You may not know him by name, but you know his sound. He is this week's Studio 5 One to Watch.
Water turned into wine. Open the eyes of the blind.
The wide-ranging voices of Micah Stampley, Pharrell Williams, Hamilton Park, and Demetria McKinney have one thing in common.
Every single time I go to write a song, I can hear it in my head before I pen it or before I play it.
Music master Joshua T.P. Williams has written and produced songs for all of them, and then some.
This ain't no ordinary worship.
Kalante Gavin's debut album is among Tedy P's latest projects, producing alongside Marquise Boone.
It's my 6th live project that I produced, but this is definitely by far the best live project that I've ever produced. Yes, sir.
When did you realize that it was the best? At what part in the process you go?
The very first full rehearsal. I knew it. I knew it was going to be one of the greatest. We wrote the record, and from the time we charted it out, that very first time with just the piano and me singing it, I knew that that record was huge. I just knew it.
When did you fall in love with music?
Oh man, it's as early as I could remember. My mom would tell me that when I was like at least 1 year old, I would be banging on pots with spoons. So she told me that now I grew up in this very, very rural town. It wasn't very wealthy at all. So my mom would get these buckets and just sit them in my room. I had 3 buckets, one red, one green, and one white. And she gave me these 2 sticks. They was just cut up and taped up tree branches. And I would just bang on them. I remember playing those in the house all the time. So my dad used to clean up the church, and of course I wanted to play the drums. So I go in the church, and I was like, "Dad, I want to play the drums while you clean the church." And he would say, "Well, go in the corner and you pray, and don't come out of that corner until you hear what God's telling you to play." So I would go in the corner, and 3 seconds later, I'd come out. I'm like, "I heard God tell me to play this." He said, "No, you didn't. Go back in that corner. You pray." And when I got to the drum set, I could tell that I heard something because I would just sit there on the drums before I played one of the drums, and I would go. And then I would hit the drums.
So it's as if God downloads it.
Exactly. It's as if God is just pouring it right into me.
How do you feel that God's allowed that to happen? I mean, you've thrived in this industry.
Yes, sir. Just being diligent. It was always a situation where they sought me out and heard of me, and then just came at my door or called on my phone, or somebody said, "Hey, I know this person, they want to meet you." And every single opportunity has come like that. I've never had a situation where I actually went out to a person and said, "Hey, I got these tracks, I want to do this with you." Every single time it was a call that came to me. So I would say just be diligent and just stick to whatever you do. In anything that you have, any dream that you have, you should always just keep on going until you win. Don't stop. Even if you keep on finding yourself losing and losing and losing, the goal is to win. So you shouldn't stop until you do that.
To hear more of Tedy P's masterful music, you may want to check out Kalante Gavin's latest project. He's the producer. Right now, though, it is time for our photo of the week. The internet is all abuzz for baby Chunko, this 6-month-old Japanese girl. And it's not because of her big cheeks and big eyes. It's her massive head of hair. This sweetheart has amassed more than 100,000 Instagram followers since her mom first posted the photo of her full dark hair. and she is this week's Studio 5 Snapshot. Still ahead.
You got three things in life when you're born. What your mama tells you, what the streets teach you, and what the future holds, which no one knows.
The star and creator of the hit series Snowfall take a seat in Studio 5 to introduce Season 2. And welcome back to Studio 5. We have made it to the final headline in this week's countdown of the best in uplifting entertainment news.
At number 1, New York City, home to 8.6 million people.
It's a Studio 5 exclusive closer look at the new CBS series, God Friended Me.
I thought I had it all figured out, but then I got a friend request from God.
What?
So, how does a preacher's son lose his faith in God?
You're telling him that God is watching over us? You know that's not true.
You don't think that what happened made me question my faith?
When I was 8, my mother was diagnosed with breast cancer. She went to full remission. The doctors couldn't even explain it. On the way home from the hospital, she died in a car accident.
Miles.
I don't know who's behind this or why they chose me. But they sent me names. They want me to help people.
Hey, somebody stop that guy!
When you pulled me back, I realized, I didn't want to die. Thank you.
I told you I'd help you get to the bottom of it. Besides, maybe we'll do some good in the process.
And that wraps the countdown. Acclaimed director John Singleton is the man behind one of my favorite films of all time, Boys in the Hood. He's also co-creator and director of the FX drama Snowfall. He and the star of the series are here, so let's take a quick look at the much anticipated Season 2 of the hit series.
We head up to Oakland, visit Swim, get enough rock to tie the shovel, maybe even talk our way into they connect, set up a pipeline south. That's what we're gonna do. I'm down. Same. Good. Get some rest, man. We'll link up at Jerome's in the morning.
So what do you tell them, the LAPD?
And that was a quick look at the second season of Snowfall, and joining us now is its creator, executive producer, director, and writer, John Singleton, as well as its star, Damson Idris. Thank you both for being here. Much appreciated.
Happy to be here, yeah.
John, I'll begin with you because I am still a big fan of Boys in the Hood to this day, my favorite film. Curious, what inspired this particular story? Why look at the crack epidemic and drugs in the 80s?
Because it's pop culture, it's nostalgia, it's the reason that hip hop music is what it is today. It's like, we hear all these stories when you listen to the rap music and stuff of a certain time and everything. It's like really visual and stuff. So we really wanted to show that, like show why things became the way they were. And when I was getting into television, I was like, what happened before Boys in the Hood? What happened before people put bars in the home? What happened before South Central became violent? Why did it become so violent? And so I wanted to answer those questions in this show.
Nice. Damson, you are the star. You play Franklin. How would you compare Franklin last season to this season?
I thought last season Franklin was a lot more boyish. He was into his wrestling and his karate and his little dance moves. He was just a normal kid in his neighborhood. And in season 2, he's definitely been through a lot within the time, and now he's becoming a boss and a successful street entrepreneur amongst his crew. I like to say street entrepreneur rather than drug dealer. It sounds more fancy. Yeah. It's fancy.
People hearing you now will be surprised to hear your voice by comparison of what we see on the screen. How difficult was it to sound American, if you will, and hood American?
Being from Australia, it's not easy. Everyone always thinks I'm Australian. I'm like,
I didn't think that.
England. Yeah, I was raised in London, but thankfully, I was so Americanized, and many of us are. So when I came here, I kind of had an idea, but the most important thing for me was capturing the soul
of what it feels like to be someone from LA. And you get that from hanging around with John Singleton and him driving you to South Central, kicking you out of a car and saying, okay, go survive.
Yeah. That's the test.
If you live, you get the part.
Music as well, you know, listening to the likes of Snoop Dogg and Kendrick Lamar, it really did help me to immerse myself into the role.
John, you were introducing us to a lot of new faces. How was casting for this film? Was it hard, easy to find the talent to tell the story you wanted to tell?
Very difficult, because we were dealing with, people have to really interpret how folks were interacting then, you know, in this period of time, and they couldn't. So it's like a lot of young actors, and you know, everybody's really under 25. You just really have to have them watch stuff and talk to them about how people interact and talk then, not now. You can't say certain things, this, you know, and it's very specific to Los Angeles and the South Central Los Angeles. So,
any challenges going from the big screen to the small screen? We're used to seeing your big films. Now we're watching this from the comfort of our homes or our devices. Any difference there?
Just time. You got to move quicker. You got to move fast when you're doing television, and then at the same time you're really trying. It's like you're doing a movie. You're doing a movie like every week, but you got to move fast and quick, and create a zone in which, you know, great talents like, you know, like Damson can just really not feel the tension of being rushed. They got to be able to ease into the performance and stuff. But we have to move quick as a production crew.
Damson, real quick before we let you go, if you had to make a pitch for why people should tune in to season 2, even those who didn't see season 1, what would you say?
I would say that this show is a show that everyone in the world should watch because I am in it.
I love it.
No, you know, this show, it's going to change your life, and it's going to have you on the edge of your seat 100% of the time. You know, it's going to really educate you on the times, and it's going to let you see our history, and so we can navigate our future.
Beautiful. Thank you both. Looking forward to season 2. We can watch it on Thursdays on FX, 10 Eastern Time. Thank you both.
And this is the part where my head tells my heart it should turn back around, but there's no turning back now. I'm going all in.
It's his latest anthem, and Matthew West is taking us all in when Studio 5 returns. And we are almost out of time for this edition of Studio 5, so let's look ahead to what we're working on to bring you next week. We're climbing aboard the final ride of the Vans Warped Tour.
We're being able to play in front of so many new people, and it's just been honestly a blessing.
Every day we're reminded and encouraged to clean up our trash, to be good to each other, to support each other, to work hard.
Anytime that we can use our success and like our celebrity to help better the world, we'll always say yes.
Join us for a look at the impact of the largest and longest running music festival in the country. That's coming next week. As for this show, we're giving the final word to singer Matthew West.
I'm going
God has big plans for you, and His plan is always going to be better than your own dreams and plans. And that's something I've had to learn throughout my life. Of, you know, my dad calls it the difference between God's major league plan for our lives. I think he used baseball terminology because that's how he knew he'd get a hold of me. But, you know, our dreams are minor league dreams compared to God's major league dream for us. And when we realize that, we can kind of take a deep breath and say, okay, not my will, God, but yours. Not my dream, but yours. It's always going to be better. It may look different than we thought, but it's going to be better.
That is a great final word for this edition of Studio 5. Join us very soon for a sit-down with Matthew West, as well as a performance of one of his latest singles. You can get more on that and other Studio 5 fun features by checking out us on Facebook and Instagram. You can also reach out and touch me at Ephraim Graham on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and Snapchat. And then you come on back and see where Studio 5 takes you next week. Bye-bye, everybody.